Hello, everybody. It is Levi with the Veritas 21 podcast.
And it's Ryan.
And we have a very special guest with us, Emily Jardin, our first female guest on the podcast. And she is going to offer some unique perspective in dating in the XYZ generation. So I hope you guys enjoy part 3 as we get rolling on this. Hey, everybody, meet Emily Jardin.
Hi, I'm honored to be the first female on here. That's great.
Yes, I'm so excited for you to be on as well. I think that you will give us, maybe tone us down a little bit, because us guys, it's just, it doesn't always settle well.
Yeah, gotta humble yourselves.
Yeah, and
it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, I think we try to do that. Well, usually it's me that's saying something that's like off the wall, but the reasoning is typically just because I want to catch people's attention, not because I'm rude, but I come off that way. So Emily, Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Emily Jardin. I'm 23 years old, and I went to community college and then transferred to a 4-year university and studied mass communications in like radio, TV, and film. Really enjoyed that and got some on-air experience and really enjoyed my time there. And now I am able to use that at my job in retail and was able to get, full-time job promotion, full-time, all of that. So really enjoying that. I guess like in my free time, I really like to read and drink coffee. So
it's awesome. What book are you reading?
What's that?
Can I ask what book you're reading?
What book? Okay, so the last one that I finished was called The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. And it was based on like a true story about these, okay, don't laugh.
I'm probably going to, but
women who, stop. They were in Kentucky and they did a traveling library in the 1800s, and they had a barn full of books, and they would load them up on their horses and ride out into the mountains to deliver books for people. It was based on a true story of the Kentucky.
Based on a true story. I'm sitting here thinking, man, this sounds like a fairy tale.
Yeah, it sounds like a Taylor Swift album.
I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be a librarian in the mountains.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. So we were talking a little bit before we actually went on the air about talking about selection. What is selection like dating in this generation? And we're just going to kind of do a little round table here. Yeah. And Ryan, do you have anything to say to that? Yeah, I know that you looked up a few things. What was some of your takes from the articles that you read?
All right. Well, today I was doing some research and some of it kind of hit me. I just got out of a relationship, and it got me kind of thinking, like, in my last relationship, the girl I was with kept on telling me that she thought I was just settling for her. And at the time, I'm like, I'm not. But then I'm doing some research about settling and everything like that today. And then there was a section that talked about the red warning signs. And I read them, and a lot of the things that it listed kind of added up to how I was acting, and kind of realized, man, this is probably why it didn't work out.
Right. You kind of had that shock factor when you started reading it, and you're like, oh, that's the reason why she said
true.
Yeah, maybe it is true, but I didn't feel like that. But man, reading that, it kind of took its toll.
Sure.
So if you guys have not, I highly suggest that you go and follow or like the Facebook page, the Veritas 21 podcast, as sometimes I run polls. I post different pictures of things going on with the Veritas 21 podcast. Sometimes that's motivational. Sometimes it's spiritual. Normally, what I always try to center that around is something that's more uplifting for the listeners and the followers of the Veritas 21 podcast. So in my approach to this specific episode, I tried to market the previous episodes, which I highly suggest you guys go back and listen to. But I also ran a poll on what are the options that people desire the most when choosing a partner. And it was actually shocking. So the moral majority of people, even over politics, over religion, over success, chose honesty and loyalty over those things, which actually to me was shocking, because if you were to ask me on selection, my selection would be religion. And the reason why religion to me would be so important is because I believe that everything else would kind of just fall into place.
Line up. Sure.
Because that person that you're meant to spend the rest, we talked about this in a prior episode, but
right.
We had kind of discussed that we don't believe that there's a specific soulmate for you. We believe that there is somebody out there that desires somebody like you, but it's the role of the relationship for both partners to come together and figure out solutions to the problems that they have in that relationship. Because often, in my opinion, we find ourselves in this generation looking for the fairy tale ending, the Prince Charming or Cinderella or whoever. And I believe that that is just an unrealistic view for us as we move forward into dating. It's good to have a perspective like there isn't that perfect person. And when you battle and have issues within your relationship, it's so important that you find the solutions to those problems. That way, in your relationship, you can overcome them. And I know, Emily, that we talked a little bit about what your selection was like prior to getting going on this episode. What were some things that you were kind of thinking?
Yeah, so there's kind of backstory to this, but in high school, I did not want to date anybody. I chose that time to kind of like figure out who I was as a person, what I could offer in a future relationship, and then also what someone else could offer to me. And so I actually wrote a lot of those things down, kind of made a list for like, okay, this is the kind of guy I'm looking for. This is the kind of guy I want. And then also to counter that, so it's not just like he has to be perfect, I made a list about some qualities and traits that I want to be for him. And, like you mentioned, first one was same beliefs. I think that was really important. And it makes everything
to clarify,
go on the same page.
To clarify, you're talking the religious or political beliefs?
Yeah, religious beliefs. Same religious beliefs, just so everything's in agreement with that. And then my second one was loyalty. And I think that for me, as a person who has some pretty strong trust issues, somebody who's going to stick by my side is really important. And then I just had a few like other things of just like, being honest. I really wanted to have a friendship before getting into a relationship with somebody, already kind of having that where you could just hang out and not feel that pressure of like physical touch or like, oh, does he like me? Does he not? What does this mean? And he held my hand, and just being able to hang out in a group and also one-on-one and having that friendship before taking it to the next level. And I think in this generation that seems to be kind of lost. We want that instant physical touch, and we want the guy
instant
who
gratification,
puts his arm around us and grabs our hand in the car when he's driving. We want that.
People
but
love
I think
to rush things.
We're missing that friendship and that emotional connection, and we just go straight for the physical connection. So that was something really important to me. And then I also wanted my family to approve of this guy, because to me, I'm not going to get married to somebody who my family doesn't like. So why would I date somebody who my family doesn't like, knowing that I won't marry him eventually? And that's just, my personal preference. I know some people don't date to marry, and they're dating for companionship or whatever, and that's fine. But for me personally, I was like, if I'm going to date to marry, then it has to be someone who gets along with my family. Right. And then one of them, kind of towards like the bottom, was somebody who's adventurous or spontaneous, because I know I'm a very like planned, organized, scheduled person. And so I really want somebody who can kind of bring some spontaneity into the relationship and kind of bring that out of me of like, hey, no, let's go road trip to Colorado. And I'd be like, what? We didn't plan this, right?
Right.
You know, I kind of freak out a little bit, but then in the end it turns out good because like we had a trip together kind of thing. So that was something that I recognized, you know, for myself. I'm not that kind of person. So to have a partner who is that and can bring that out in me, was really important. And then of course just like someone who's a good listener. I don't want him to be the only one talking the entire relationship.
Well, you're in broadcasting, right? I mean, that's what your degree was in. So of course
Right.
you want
It
to
has
be
to be back
heard.
and forth.
Exactly.
And they
Hey,
have
I'm
to
the
be
same way.
able to jam out to T Swift, huh?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
You know, I think having a good just screaming session in the car to Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
that's healthy for any relationship.
Absolutely. Like let out all of your stress to T Swift. Don't let
Yeah.
out all of your stress to your partner.
No. I think you all need to just like belt out "You Belong with Me" and you'll just bond instantly.
Yes, yes. And I like that you brought up adventure. So that was another option on this poll that I ran. And nobody chose adventure, which I mean, to me, adventurous is like super important to me. I'm like, hey, let's go jump out of a freaking airplane. Let's go bungee jumping off of a bridge over the Royal Gorge or whatever. Like I want to live life to the absolute fullest and overcome stupid little fears that I feel like I possess, you know?
Well, and also I think going along with adventurous and adventure, I think that experience is really important to me. Like I want to experience life with this person and I want to, you know, get to know your family and I want to, you know, go on trips and make these memories and have that experience and not just a guy who buys me flowers every month.
Right.
You know, like let's actually live life together. And I think, you know, being adventurous is part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love going on trips too. It's one of my favorite things. Ryan, how many times have you been out of the state? I'm sorry, I had to ask.
Okay, putting me on the spot. I think I've only been out of like the state probably 6 times, and I've only been to the surrounding states.
Man, you got to go down to Jacksonville with me. Jack's Beach,
see,
baby.
That would be fun. But
yeah, it would be awesome.
Never got that invite.
Hey, I was thinking about asking you to go to Denver and see your aunt and uncle up there, but maybe that can happen another time. I don't know. It's hard to get off work, and so like that's another thing. Okay, so how important is success to you?
I don't think that's not on my list. I think please have a job.
Right?
Please have a job.
Yeah.
And I would really like to be just something you enjoy. Like I don't care if you're a plumber. If you like that, like then I'm happy for you. I will support you 100%. Like I think that's the balance of it is if I see that you're miserable in your work and in this job and it's totally draining to you, like I wouldn't be able to support that and be like, hey, this isn't what you want. Like this isn't what you are dreaming of. Like, you know, this isn't making you happy or fulfilled. And so, but if it was a job that like you were passionate about and you loved and cared about and enjoyed waking up and going to work, then yeah, do whatever. Park ranger, plumber, like trash man, like there's no ranking for me.
Because when you go to work every day, because typically people will spend more time at work than they will with their family, right? Or their partner. Because half the time you're at, or 3/4 of the time that you're at home, you're actually sleeping. If you work an 8-hour day or a 12-hour day like myself, you aren't home all the time. So if you're going into work and you absolutely hate that and you don't have much drive there and you're just kind of like groggy about it, if you have those problems, you're going to take them home. And then it's just a barrier that builds in the relationship. So Ryan.
All right, Emily. So for you, what does settlement mean?
Yeah, I think to me it means when you have those expectations and those standards, but then you're ignoring them when someone attractive or someone who's nice to you and says hello to you comes by and you just forget about those standards that you have, just so you can have companionship, so you can have a person, so you can say you're in a relationship. And then, I think that settling, it turns into a breakup. Like nobody wins, because neither of you are getting what you want or what you expected from the relationship. And so to me, settling is just a temporary thing, because you're settling for that small bit of bliss, of happiness, of being in the relationship and being with somebody. And then you realize, this isn't the person that I want, or this isn't who I thought you were. And it blows up in your face.
So anytime that I think of settlement, I think of one analogy that I think Levi probably thinks of too. But football, like settling for a field goal, okay? You're
Yep.
wanting this touchdown, but you're going to settle for this field goal because that's all you can get right now. And
Or you feel like that's the only thing you can get. It's like you feel like this is the best option in this situation. So that's what you're going to go for. Instead of going for it on fourth down and actually trying to get the score up even higher, you're going to settle for just that field goal, even if it's a hard kick.
yeah, and it could be the same in relationships.
Yep.
Because some people even feel stuck in their relationships, but I won't get too far into that.
So a lot of people that do relationship podcasts, I've been going through and listening to a bunch of different episodes. They're all experts, right? They're all people that have gone to college and hold like some type of psychology degree, or have wrote a book or something like that. And I am absolutely not that person that is that qualified, right? But here's the thing that I don't see a lot of. I don't see a lot of the reality of this person is going through the same situation that you are, trying to find that partner. I'm not going to sit here, Ryan's not going to sit here, and Emily isn't going to sit here and tell you we are relationship experts. It's expectations of what we would like to have eventually in a partner. And that's the reason why Emily actually chose this specific topic on selection. And honestly, I was like, hey, you know what? That's great. Let's roll with that. And so, Emily, what were some other things with selection? Have you experienced how hard that is to find?
For sure. I was just gonna call myself out here, but so I've never been in a relationship, haven't had a boyfriend, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been on dates or talked to boys. So I go on dates and we go out for coffee and we talk, and most of the time it's pointless and useless conversation, and it's not helping me get to know them more, and we're nice and polite and it's fine, and then yeah, this was a good time, and then we say goodbye, we split ways, and then I never hear from him again. And that's okay, because that's not somebody I wanted to date or a relationship I wanted to pursue. So I do go out and meet guys and try and inform something, but then they don't meet up to the standards and that list that I was talking about, and I'm like, this guy isn't all that great. And so then we just part our ways peacefully, and some of them end up getting married. I've had a few guys that I've talked to and go on dates with, and they get married to somebody else, and that's great. I wasn't that person for them, and that's okay.
And clearly they weren't that person for you either, otherwise they would have continued to try for you.
Right. And so I think that it's important to know your standards and have that set, both for a partner that you're looking for and for yourself, so that when someone comes along, you don't fall into that settlement of being like, oh, here's somebody great, let's go out for coffee and this is so fun. Instead, you're having those standards and that list pretty strong in your heart, and when you go on dates, you're like, nope, this is not the one. And then you're not wasting your time. To me, I'm like, I haven't wasted any time.
So question for you. If you're willing to be completely candid on this.
Sure.
But have you attempted to talk to them afterwards and then they ghost you, or what?
Yeah, I usually give it, a couple days after we hang out or whatever, and just like, hey, how's it going? And, sometimes, they'll reply real quick, and it's just kind of like, hey, how are you? You too, just small talk. But other times, honestly, I've been like, you know what? If he wanted to text me, he would. If he was interested and if he really wanted to hang out or meet up again, he would be like, hey, that was a really good time. When's the next? Let's plan the next.
And
so when that doesn't happen, I'm like, neither of us want that. And that's okay. I don't feel less than for that. Like if the guy wasn't, into me in that way, then let's not waste time. That's okay. I don't get hurt feelings over that. I would get hurt feelings if I continued to pursue that and we got in a relationship, and then for him to be like, oh, actually, I'm not into you.
Right. And I know that you just kind of said it, but in a way, you said that wasn't hurtful, but would you have felt like maybe you had more closure if they were just completely candid in why they didn't want to pursue anything with you?
Okay, I'm going to be honest, but no.
Really?
I think that would really discourage me. And so I think, like, let's just leave it peacefully, and I'm not going to be the needy girl that keeps being like, hey, how's it going? How's your day?
Good for you.
Like, I respect that. Like, if you don't want to text me and you're not interested in me, I can take that hint. That's a pretty clear hint. You don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
And I respect that. I'll leave it at that. And so I don't look like a fool of being like, hey, let's try and get together.
I'm the complete opposite. Like,
this is
I want to know.
This is a big indication of you don't want to talk.
Right. What was that, Ryan?
I said I'm the complete opposite. Like, I want to know. I want to know what's so wrong about me.
Yeah.
Because
maybe
I'm pretty
that's
amazing.
The difference here.
Yeah. Why aren't you interested in me? That's what I always want to know. Like and for me, it's because I am confident in myself. If I wasn't confident in myself, then you guys wouldn't be watching this video right now, right? I mean, that's how I feel. I wouldn't have put in all this work to start building the Veritas 21 podcast. But with that confidence, I hope that it doesn't come off as arrogance, but I still want to know, like, why? What is it with me? Because I feel like I'm a great guy. Like I have a high sense of morals. I have great integrity. I have a great job, good character, and I wouldn't have my job without good character if you didn't know I'm in law enforcement. So like, it's just like really difficult for me to understand, what's this problem? I want to figure out what the problem is, but your perspective, Emily, is 100% correct in that if they're not carrying the same values as me, setting these standards and the selection of your partner is extremely important. And so I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but are a lot of women that way in the sense of like not wanting to be candid and say why they're not interested in the other person?
So here's just my opinion, and I do think you make a really good point of like, what's wrong with me? I have this, and I think I'm a great person too. But I think it's like when it's the right person, they're going to recognize that. They're going to recognize your good character and your integrity and how great of a person you are and all those things, and they'll let you know that. They'll be like, hey, I saw what you did. That was great. I'm proud of you. And they'll want to share that with you. So when you're with somebody who's not doing those things or not appreciating those characteristics and qualities that you have, then they're not the right one. Then like, if you don't see that I have a great character and good integrity and a kind heart, then to me, that's on you. Like, I don't need to know that, like, because I know who I am, and somebody else will appreciate those qualities in me.
Right. So another question for you. Have you ever heard of the book by Gary Chapman? I believe it's Gary Chapman. I know Lasta Chapman is correct, but The 5 Love Languages? Yeah,
I have.
Have you read it?
I haven't actually read the book, but I took like the online quiz thing to find out, my rankings, I guess. And it's very interesting because I know you can have two, where it's like you give love by da 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 da, and then you like to receive love by da 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 da.
Mm-hmm. And so what are those for you?
Two different ones. What was that?
What are those for you?
Okay, so I like to give love by quality time. Like if
Okay.
we're hanging out, it's like I'm not on my phone. It's just me and you. I reserve the whole day, like, very intentional with my time. And then I like to receive love by words of affirmation, like I'm proud of you and you're doing a good job, and
Right.
um, just to
That's
know
how
where
I
I
am
stand.
too. Like, yeah, words of affirmation. And I actually was listening to Gary Chapman do a interview on this on a separate
Oh, cool.
podcast. I can't remember the name of it. I wish I did, but so Gary Chapman said that the moral majority of men expect words of affirmation. That is their main love
Mm.
language. And I found that very interesting. Ryan, I know you do you know what all the five love languages are? Honestly, I don't. I think it's
Okay, I can
quality
tell you.
time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch, gifts. Oh crap.
Was that 3 or 4?
That's
That's
4.
four.
Okay.
Okay, quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, physical touch, acts of service.
Acts of service. Okay, that's right.
Sorry.
Ryan, out of those 5 selections, what would be your love language? And I so the host of this podcast, if I can add to this, she said that her love language actually changed over time. Like she didn't realize that this was actually her love language when she thought it was this other one. Ryan,
Wow.
what would be your love language off the top of your head?
Quality time.
You like quality time?
Yeah.
Like you're going to spend time with me?
Yeah, and like it helps build your relationship more because in that quality time, you guys can have more conversation and meaningful conversation.
Yeah,
Right.
agreed. I think we're in this generation where you're going out on a date, but you're at the restaurant and both of you are on your phones. Like,
Yeah.
that's not quality time. Just
Right.
because you're together doesn't mean it's quality time. It
And
has to,
I'm very
quality.
guilty. I'm very
Good
guilty of that.
conversation.
I'm
Yeah.
always on my phone.
I know.
I hate
Whenever I'm
that.
around you, Ryan, I feel unloved because you're on your phone so much.
See?
Text me then.
Text me that we're sitting across the room from each other,
Hey.
brother.
Right. Be intentional.
Yeah.
That's what girls want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Intentionality.
And I tell you what, I am extremely terrible with being intentional. Texting and being on my phone, like when I'm alone, I'm terrible at that. And I don't know. I don't really like to make too many excuses for my problems.
Work.
My mind is constantly running with like new ideas and things that I could do, or I'm constantly getting busy with something in particular, and it just makes it really difficult for me, from my ADD, to focus and get back into that conversation with another person. Now, when I'm in person with somebody, it's like ding, ding, ding. You know, I can go all day and set down my phone, not have a stinking problem. And I don't know. Dang it.
I don't know. I think you should just share those ideas when you have them, like text them. Like girls appreciate that and being like knowing what you're thinking. Like even if it's just like, oh, I need to get dog food, or like something like share that with us because then that makes us feel a part of your everyday life. Like that general stuff that you think is like, why would I text that? That's
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah,
Like,
most of the time that's what it is. I'm like, that's
it's called
weird.
That's
overthinking.
weird. That's stupid. Right. Just
Yeah.
send that, and then they'll be like, "Oh, he wanted to tell me that."
Oh,
You know,
he's a
like,
stinking weirdo.
no, we appreciate it. We appreciate because then it's like, "Oh, he's telling me this." Like, you don't tell all your friends. Oh, I need to go to the grocery store. It's like it almost feels like exclusive.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's including me in his everyday thoughts too.
Maybe that's my problem.
There you go. I solved it for you.
Yes,
said I
you
wasn't an
did.
expert.
I
just
need
solved this,
to
like,
communicate what's on my mind a little bit better.
Yeah,
honestly,
don't
yeah,
overthink
I know.
communication. It can
Easier
be
said
simple.
than done, though.
Yeah. Well,
Or especially, I think it's important to be like, hey, like have a good day. Like I'm working. I won't be home until 10 o'clock at night or whatever. Like,
right.
just let me know. Just be like, hey, have
Yeah.
a good one. I'll be at work all day.
Well,
That's fine.
And especially since I started this podcast, I knew nothing, not even how to hook up the stinking computer. So I'm like, and I haven't had a computer like that I actually use for like Word documents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Probably since high school, and I'm 27, so that was almost 10 years ago. And so like I'm so focused on learning everything, but that's how my mind works. I'm so motivated to become successful in something that I find enjoyment in. And I think a lot of times in my entrepreneurial mindset, the learning and the drive in the beginning is what excites me so much. I'm like so focused on that all the other stuff, the relationship, the conversation, even calling my mom sometimes is difficult for me because I'm so driven for these other things.
But see, girls love when you talk about what you're passionate about. Like if you're like, wow, like I'm doing all this work for the podcast and look at this new soundboard I got and look at this mic and I'm going to do this and this is my idea for this.
Yeah.
Like we get excited with you. We want to be supportive with you and be a team.
Yeah.
And so when like, I love when guys are like teaching me stuff like, I was talking with a guy who was going to trade school to be an electrician, and I don't know anything about that, but he's talking about like, oh, you have the foreman and this, and this is what you do after that. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know any of this. So just include us in that. And I think, that makes it more attractive to hear what you're passionate about too, even if I don't care about being an electrician, like, but to hear that you care about that.
Right. And
It's
I
bonding.
guess like deep down inside, I know that. But then on the other side, I'm like, man, I don't want to be annoying, And I'm a guy. I like what I see, and what I see is seeing somebody and being very attracted to them physically is extremely important to most guys. And sometimes that muddies the waters and doesn't make it clear on that selection, right? Like I want, but let's put them on a scale. I want an 8, even though I'm a 4, and it's just very difficult with that idea. And I think that our culture feeds a lot into that, to have higher expectations on the physical instead of the emotional, spiritual, and mental,
Yeah, I do think that, like the entertainment and movies and music and stuff has a huge influence on relationships in society. And I think that that's why it's so important to get your standards and know them by heart and then seek that out. Like if you're looking for, some Nicholas Sparks romance, great. Figure out what it is that you like about all those characters, write it down, and find a man who meets or woman who meets those characteristics that you are like, man, I just can't find anybody who wants, what I want, or I can't find anybody who is honest and trustworthy. Like, well, then search for that. Like you have to write it down and know what you want. If you don't know what you want, then you're going to get trapped into settling.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Emily, thank you so much for coming on. I think that this is a perfect way to close this episode on selection. I would love to have you back sometime. You're natural at your broadcasting, so freaking fantastic. Do you have any closing words you would like to say?
I guess just to reiterate, like I'm not an expert. This is just what's worked for me in my personal life on just not wasting my time. And that's just me and my personality. So
Right.
I'm not saying you have to do this and you have to be like me, but that's just my experiences.
Right. And Ryan, would you like to add anything? Normally you don't have too much to say, but do you have anything off the top of your head?
Nothing changed since the last time. Nope. But hey, Emily, thank you for coming on, though. It was good talking to you again.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to come back if you have any other topics or questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe get the listeners to ask in some questions.
And of course, again, guys, I'm Levi with the Veritas 21 podcast, your host. This is going to be posted on all the platforms. We're on over, I think, 9 platforms now, growing steadily. One thing that I kind of posted just today was that there has been a 20% increase on the age group from 23 to 27. And I think the reason why that is going on right now is because of this specific series. People want to know, why isn't dating working in my life? And I think that these conversations that we're having is giving some insight as to what's going on. And that's why it was so nice to have Emily on the podcast today, because she added that perspective from the female side. So if you guys would, on Apple Podcast, you can leave a review, and please leave us a review. Let us know some questions that you have, some topics that you would like us to cover. Like, follow, subscribe, share with your friends and family. As this podcast continues to grow, I hope that the community grows as well, and we can all learn to have real, insightful conversations. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to part 3 of Dating in the XYZ Generation. You guys have a great rest of your week, and God bless.